I really like the artificiality of fiction, even though it's often embarrassing and clumsy, to create something out of thin air. It seemed shameful that Alice recognized celebrities, but she did. A stutter in her glance, a second look, she could identify them almost right away as famous, even if she didn't know their names. There's some familiarity in the way their features were put together, a gravitational pull. Alice could identify even the C-list actors, their faces taking up space in her brain without any effort on her part.
So can you tell me a bit more about writing Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's sort of a funny story. I wanted to write a little bit about LA and California, and then also that funny age that is not, you're not a teenager anymore, but you're not fully an adult. Mm-hmm. So Alice is 21, 22, and sort of in that mode where she's trying to figure out how the world operates. And they work at this store, which is kind of obviously American Apparel, where I worked briefly.
Really?
Yeah.
So, why are you drawn to writing about that?
I think this story especially is so much about like surfaces and trying to decide what kind of person you are, or feeling that you can do things without them really impacting you.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that I remember from my early 20s too, or that, it's this time where everything feels a little bit pretend or make-believe. And then there's that idea, like, does it actually go away, or does it imprint itself on you in some way, even if you can't recognize it at the time?
I also just recently read your story, Northeastern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I really enjoyed. Also quite dark characters. I mean, what draws you to those kind of dark themes?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm interested in that distance between like how we think of ourselves or how the characters think of themselves, which is always generally as a good person.
Yeah.
Matched with like what people are actually capable of, even in small ways, not big things like murder or that kind of thing, although I'm interested in that too. But even just more like the daily ways that people betray each other.
Do you start with voice usually, or?
Both with this story, Los Angeles, and the New Yorker story. I feel, and the girls. For me, setting is almost the most important, or the way that I can enter into a space, and into the idea of writing a story about something. I think it's often like, oh, this atmosphere I'd really like to write about, like what characters will activate the atmosphere in some way that's interesting to me. So like the Northeast regional is kind of like, oh, there's a certain kind of East Coast light when you're on a train, or like even prep school sort of stuff. How do I get to write about those things, those settings? What characters will animate it?
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And congratulations again for being on the list.
Thanks.
Yeah, great.